everyone, I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Forsyth County Connections, coming to you from the studios of Cable 2, courtesy of the good folks at Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System. We do appreciate their hospitality. We have a jam-packed show for you, lots to talk about today. And where we're going to start, not just in this segment, but in the first two segments, we're going to talk about foster care, adoptive care, and talk about the process involved. I'm going to learn along with you. And we do this with our first very special guest. Torrie Smith is Supervisor of Foster Home Licensing and Child Placement Services for the Forsyth County Department of Social Services. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Remind folks what foster care is and how that differs from adoptive care.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the need for foster care is just simply for that, the need for a child to be in a safe home. Every county has the responsibility to ensure the safety of a child. And so when we're out there, you know, once a CPS report has been made and assessing the safety of the child, if a child has been determined to be abused and neglected and we cannot ensure their safety, unfortunately, they need to come out of that home.
Right.
And we need to place them in a safe environment. So foster care exists because children need safe places to live.
And I guess, too, it could be, you know, death of a parent if it was a single-parent household and no other relatives. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different ways. Where does the need come from? A lot of different areas or what?
Well, yeah, there's no geographical area. Area just really depends on what the need is and what's going on with the child. I mean, obviously, if families are able to resume and take care of a child without our needed services, that's great, you know, but then sometimes there aren't any identified families or relatives available, and so it results in the child entering into foster care.
Would you say that, I'll put you on the spot, you don't have to quote any statistics necessarily, but how great a need is there right now? How much of a need is there currently for foster care in Forsyth County?
Well, there's definitely a great need. Currently right now in Forsyth County, we have about 230 children in foster care that we have custody of. I would say about 15%, about 30 children, give or take, are actually placed outside of Forsyth County. So the need specifically in Forsyth County is great because we would prefer all of our children. The fact they're in foster care is not for their own, but we prefer them to be in Forsyth County.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, since you brought that out, why is it better for the child to stay in their county?
Oh, that's extremely important because we try to want to make sure less things happen to changes. I give you an example, like if they stay in the Forsyth County, then most likely their school may not have to change.
Okay.
If they stay in Forsyth County, if they're not placed with their siblings, and their siblings are placed in Forsyth County, we can ensure that they have visitations with their siblings. If they're placed in Forsyth County, it's easier commute when they have their visitation with their parents.
Right.
And just in general, if it's their county of origin, they're familiar with this area.
Okay, I got you.
And children placed in Forsyth County, they adjust better to their placements if they're placed in their county of origin.
If I want to become a foster parent, what's the process that I go through and how do I qualify?
Well, sure. What starts by calling our DSS recruitment line. That number is 336-703-2445.
Okay. I'm a slow writer. I'm going to take my pen out and write this down. Tell me that number again.
Yes, 336.
Okay.
703.
Okay.
2445.
Okay.
And that is our DSS recruitment line.
All right.
And so you will more than likely get my recruiter, Miranda Sales, and she will talk with you through the process. Simplified version is that we need the family to submit an application, a full application to talk about their family background, who lives in the home, their employment, education, just the minimal background information we need. Once we do that, we will run a criminal background check just to make sure that there aren't any charges and convictions that are concerning.
Right.
And if that criminal background check is favorable, then we request a home assessment of their home, because even though they may have great jobs and a clean criminal background check, we also want to make sure their home is safe and there aren't any safety hazards. And so once we go out to the home and there's no safety hazards, then they can be invited to our class, which is a 30-hour training course called TIPS MAP that the state requires in order for them to become licensed.
We have an adoptive parent coming up in just a minute that we're going to talk about. We have just about 10 or 15 seconds left. Very quickly, where does adoption come into play in the process of foster care?
Absolutely, no problem. Well, the initial plan for children in foster care is reunification. Unfortunately, if that ever cannot be achieved, sometimes adoption or guardianship can be explored. And so once a child is legally free and can be adopted, then that case is transferred to the adoption unit, and then that adoption team will be responsible for that.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. Is there a particular website people can go to learn more information?
Yes, www.forsyth.cc.
All right. Torrie, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Come back sometime, will you?
I sure will. Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
Help emergency responders help you when you can't help yourself. Forsyth Cares, the Community Assistance Registry for Emergency Services, allows you to register yourself or someone in your household sharing health conditions or information that might aid in your care should your home be the subject of a 911 call.
911, what's your emergency?
Operators will seek critical information, medications, conditions, or in the case of a wandering child or an adult with cognitive disabilities, places they like to go, or even if they have access to a vehicle. The information is stored in a database only accessible to first responders and 911 agents. Get more information at forsyth.cc/Forsyth Cares. In the moment that your life depends on a fast response, get information to first responders that can aid in your or your loved one's care. That's forsyth.cc/Forsyth Cares.
Right now on Forsyth County Connections, and following through with our previous segment where we talked to Torrie about the process of being a foster parent and how that sort of flows into being an adoptive parent. And now we want to speak with an adoptive parent. Our special guest is Cherith Dalton, who's been both a foster parent and adoptive parent. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Why did your family approach Forsyth County about fostering to adopt, making that transition? Why did you want to do that?
So I have wanted to foster ever since I was really little. I was exposed to the need for it in our city. And then when we got married, there was an interest meeting going on, and so I kind of tricked my husband into going. And we went just to find out. At the time I worked, I didn't even know if we could foster with both of us working in our schedules. And so we went to an interest meeting, and from there we jumped into getting licensed. And we had always said that we wanted to foster because that's what kids need, but if adoption was an option, we were open to that too.
Yeah, and some people will only do foster care,
Right.
but others do like you do. They have an eye toward, hey, I'd like to adopt at some point. And now you mentioned going to the meetings. Now, if you get to that point where I guess there's training involved if you want to become a foster parent, what about the training surprised you, if anything?
I don't know if there's so many surprises with the training. I think as with parenting, no matter how you get into it, you don't know much until you're doing it.
Right.
So you can read all the books and do all the training, but until you're in the situation, that's when you really get your real training.
Well, what would you advise for parents who are listening now who might want to be foster parents, who might want to move toward the process of being an adoptive parent? What would you say to them about making that transition? Is it good to be a foster parent first and then they help you in the transition, or what advice do you give?
I think it's good to start out fostering. I think, not every kid is made for every home.
Right.
And so that gives both the family and the child options, and I think that's healthy for everyone. And so my advice would just be take that first step and find out. Ask the questions, talk to DSS, talk to other parents who have done it, and just ask the questions.
Right. Now, how many children have you fostered so far?
So we were licensed for 10 years, and we had the opportunity to have 10 kids in our home.
All right. And let's talk about separation, because let's say you're fostering a child, you get used to the child gets used to you, and then there comes a point where somebody other than you wants to adopt them, which is a natural thing. Is it hard to let go, or what's the separation process like?
It's very hard. So our first placement, we were very, very attached to them, and they ended up being adopted by family, which is great, but it was very, very hard to let them go. We were heartbroken, and we had them for 7 months, and very vital months of their lives because they were so little. And
very
so
formative time, and
Right.
you're really helping them get through that period. I mean, it's just amazing, what you do for the children, and then, then they move on. However, your family then ended up adopting.
Right.
Now, how has that impacted the family?
It's impacted us. So we've adopted 3 kids. We have, they're not biologically related, so we adopted at different times. And it's obviously impacted our family. They're our only children. We don't have biological children. So it's changed the course of our life for the good.
Right.
But yeah, it's impacted us.
How would you, if you were given like a testimonial and somebody was watching this program, what would you say to them about if they're thinking this way? What kind of motivation or advice would you give to them?
I think the motivation is that there's so many kids that need a home. And they don't have time. They don't have time for us to wait for it to be the perfect time for us. It's never going to be the perfect time. Things are never going to just work out great. They don't have time to wait. And so while we juggle all our things and make all our excuses, they're waiting. And we need to step into that. The good, the bad, and the ugly, just step into it.
I'm glad you stepped into it because I can just tell in your eyes how much passion and compassion you have about this. And I congratulate what you're doing and thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211211 to find a solution.
Back now on Forsyth County Connections. Thanks for staying with us. Let's talk about voter ID. Let's talk about elections. And we need to get ready to go vote. That's what happens. And we're going to speak with an expert about all of this right now. He's been on the show before. We're always glad to welcome Tim Tsujii. He's Director of Elections for Forsyth County Board of Elections. Good to see you again, Tim.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Whether folks are watching this show prior to the municipal elections that are on November 7th, some people will, some people won't. But we're also getting ready for a big 2024, primaries, general elections, that kind of thing.
Right.
What kind of ID should I plan to bring with me when I go to the polling place?
Right. So, as you mentioned, the state of North Carolina has a new voter ID requirement. And so voters, when they show up to vote in person at their polling place, they'll be asked to present an acceptable form of ID. It could be the North Carolina driver's license or a non-operator ID. It could be a U.S. passport. There's several.
Something with a photo?
Something with the photo, right. And so that's what the poll workers are going to be asking for, and what they'll be checking on that ID is to verify that the picture matches or it reasonably resembles the voter that's standing in front of them, that the name that appears on the ID is substantially equivalent to
Right.
the name that's listed in the registration books,
Right.
that it's unexpired, which there are exceptions to that, but they do have to check the expiration date, and that it is one of the acceptable forms of ID.
All right, Tim, suppose I've been living in Virginia and I've moved down to North Carolina recently. I still have my valid Virginia driver's license.
Right.
I have not yet gone to get my North Carolina driver's license. Right. Can I go into the polling place and say, here's my driver's license? And they look at it and say, well, it's Virginia. Can you use that?
That's a great question. So as long as that voter has registered to vote in North Carolina within 90 days of that election, they may use that out-of-state driver's license as an ID.
Okay. And it could get confusing because the out-of-state license is going to give a different address from what you have now.
That's right, but that's not what they'll be checking for. What they're checking for is the picture on that ID that it reasonably resembles the voter standing in front of them.
All right, let's go the other direction. Suppose I forget to bring, I have an ID, but I forget to bring it with me. And I show up to the polling place and I say, hey, I'm sorry, I forgot it.
Right.
Are there exceptions to the rule where they'll let you vote anyway?
Right, so for a voter like that, they would have three options. Option one is they can go home, get the ID that they need, and come back and cast their ballot then. Option two is they could be given or offered a provisional ballot, which is where they can vote the ballot. It's saved in the provisional envelope, and the voter they have within 9 days after election day to come to the Board of Elections office and present the acceptable form of ID in order for that provisional ballot to be counted.
All right, hold on. Let me make sure I understand this. Now, when I vote over in Kernersville, right? So I go into the place, and it's one of these where you mark the ballots, and then
Right.
you put them in a machine when you finish.
That's right.
You feed the ballot in the machine. Now, are you saying that if I don't have a license, I say, gee, I didn't bring my license with me, you go ahead and vote, do they feed it in the same machine, or do they save it in a different area?
They save it in a different area. So it's not, that ballot is not fed through the tabulator. It's secured in a provisional envelope that is kept safely and held by the Board of Elections after Election Day. And like I said before, the voter has within 90 days after Election Day to appear at the Board of Elections, bring in that acceptable form of ID in order for that provisional ballot to be counted.
What about, and I know this happens, what about elderly folks that show up to vote, they bring out their valid, what they think is their valid driver's license,
right.
and then the person at the polling place says, wait a minute, ma'am, this is expired 2 months ago. What happens then?
So there's an exception to that as well. As long as the ID, so take for instance, if you have a voter, an elderly voter that's 72 years of age, as long as their ID was unexpired at their 65th birthday, that ID can still be accepted.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any events or any education that you're doing for folks in terms of what they should do with a voter
Yeah,
ID?
we're trying to get the word out. So we've got several voter ID seminars and outreach events that are coming out. In fact, we've got one coming out next week, next Tuesday, October 17th at 5:30 at Louisville Library. We'll have another event in November out at Southside Library. And then again in December 5th at Kernersville Library.
Is there a place people can go online as well?
Yes, so we have it on our website at www.fcvotes.com, and also check us out on social media.
All right, that's what I'll do. I'll just call you at home. You know, if
Just
I get
call
confused.
me. You got it.
Tim, I know you work all the time getting stuff ready. I appreciate the hard work, and we'll get you back again sometime.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Tim. We'll be right back after this.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Back now on this edition of Forsyth County Connections. So glad you stayed with us for many reasons, one of which is we have a return visitor to the show. We're always glad when she can spend a few minutes out of her busy day to drop by and tell us what's going on. Courtney Driver is Utilities Director for Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You have a visual aid there,
I
and
do.
we're going to get into that in just a second. Now, what is, you sent me an email about something called the Water Savvy Program. What the heck is that?
So it's an advanced meter upgrade program. And so we will be replacing approximately 130,000 residential and commercial meters, water meters,
Right.
with new meters and smart points that will allow us to read meters remotely. And we'll also be introducing a customer portal where customers can pay their bills, monitor usage for any leaks, and set up alerts.
All right, let me get this straight. So once these are installed, and you're expecting that, you said something like 130,000 meters, do you have a projected time of when that'll all be done, or?
We think that we should be done in the next 2 years.
All right.
Replacing all
So
this.
now traditionally, and all through my lifetime, we would see the water meter person coming. Are you saying that once these are installed, we will no longer see people coming to our house to check the meter?
We will not need to routinely send employees out to read the meters, but occasionally they might have to go and verify something. But those meter readers will just be, their skills will be refined, and they'll move into new jobs, new positions.
Okay, because this is new technology from what we have. Now, you already sort of answered this, but I'll take another go at it. Why is this project so important for the overall community, do you think?
Yes, so there's a lot of benefits to the Water Savvy project. One is convenience. As I mentioned, customers can pay their bill and monitor usage online. Then there's, we got into this, the privacy and safety. We will no longer need to send staff out to routinely read the meters.
Right.
Accuracy, replacing aging infrastructure updated technology is really our responsibility to the customers. And then the last is speed. So this meter system will be able to send real-time data, so we'll be able to address customer concerns more quickly.
Now, am I going to get a bill one month when this is installed and says you're going to pay X amount more per month for the Savvy water system?
Yeah, so this project is estimated to cost $50 million, so it is rather expensive. It is funded through our water rates, so there will not be any additional fee on your bill for this new meter setup.
All right, so I won't notice anything on that, just it's
Right.
installed. Now, are there any security issues that we should be aware of when we put something like this on? Sometimes people are afraid of new technology and things. Well, what are they doing? Are they tracking my information or what? Well, what about that?
So the security of our customer information is a top priority. So the meter will record water usage and it will securely deliver it to our office. No personal information such as your name or address will be stored on the meter, and no information can be accessed directly from the meter.
Now, what can residents expect over the next few weeks or months or during the year as far as seeing crews out there or seeing somebody actually install it? What are they expecting with that?
Yeah, so each customer will receive a letter prior to their new meter being installed. And then following that, they may see a contractor called Concord Utility Services, which is a contractor that Winston and Forsyth County Utilities hired to do the meter swap out. So that's what they can see. They'll see.
Is this going to be we didn't rehearse this or anything, is this going to be a long and difficult process if they come out, if Concord comes out to install this system? Does it take an hour? Does it take the whole day or what?
So hopefully it's a simple process, and they definitely can do more than several in one day.
Okay.
And hopefully they don't hit any complications.
Now, is there a general website that you have at your office that people can learn more about what's going on? What is that?
Absolutely, I'm glad you asked. So anyone with more questions can visit our website at cityofwinstonsalem.org/water savvy, and that's SAVVY.
Right.
There's a short video, there's some FAQs, and a sample letter.
I think that's great. Courtney, thanks for introducing us to this new technology. Sounds like it's going to save us a lot of time, money, be more efficient.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
We worked our whole lives to save, just to spend it on time. With these two, filling buckets of memories. This is what makes life, life. Yet how much of life are we willing to miss out on? Because even mild hearing loss doubles our risk of dementia. Yes, dementia. Good hearing health is essential to staying engaged and doing what we love. Hear well and stay vital. Get a hearing health check every year.
Back now in Forsyth County Connections, and one of my favorite places to go when I was a kid, and if I were a kid now, it would still be my favorite place, and that's the public library. And we just happen to have someone with us today to talk about things that are going on. Mia Jordon, Supervisor of Teen Services for Forsyth County Public Library. How you doing?
Good. Hope you are.
I am. And now let's talk about children's programs for just a minute. Do you have a lot of these going on at the library each month? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot if there's a particular, can you think of how many you have and how many kids participate? Give me sort of an idea of how popular it is.
We have, in terms of like children's programs for birth through ages 11 is what we consider a children's program. We have about like 100 programs per
month? Holy mackerel.
And maybe 100, 200 participants.
That's just great. That's cool. That's very great. Now, give me an example of a program that, you know, if I were a parent watching this, give me an example of a program you might offer for children, for example.
Well, we have story times for the preschool age and toddlers and babies, and that we have music and movement and all of that.
Programs for toddlers, that's cool.
Yeah, and all of that helps build the early literacy skills. So we teach them early literacy skills in a fun and interactive way in like a concentrated time, and that's really important, especially for like the preschoolers to get those skills.
Right.
And we model for parents and guardians ways to engage the children in early literacy skills, like through singing and reading books and doing finger plays.
Really get them sort of indoctrinated and educated about what the library can do and how they can use it. I just think that's great what you're doing. Now, of course, a lot of people are on a budget now, so I guess one question, if they're watching this, they're thinking, well, Mia, all this sounds great what you're doing, but is it free?
Yes.
So there's no charge?
No charge. All of our programs are free. Forsyth County supports the library. We also get some money from the state. We use grant funds, and our Friends of the Library organizations throughout the county support the library.
That's wonderful. Now, you know, I think back to when I was a kid 150 years ago, and I'd go over to the Forsyth County Public Library to do research and to study and do homework. Now, do people still do that, or is that an antiquated concept?
No, they still do that. Yeah, we have a lot of kids who come in after school and or on weekends, and we have study rooms. They can meet with tutors or study groups. We also have online resources they could use through our website, forsythlibrary.org. We have dozens of databases for like research and online like tutoring.
Right.
And
So aside
video
from
courses.
tutoring, they can, if they're working on a term paper or something, they can do research on that too. But
Yes.
what about, you
In
mentioned
person or
online
online.
things. Do you have books online? I mean, do you have things digital or audio books or anything like that?
Yes. So we have thousands of children's books in the library. We also have audiobooks. We have books, ebooks, and e-audiobooks online. We have them through the Libby app and the Hoopla app. And those are free to download and free to use.
Right. I know you're looking at me like, hey, I'm an old guy, so I don't know about some of these apps, but that's what, well, before time runs out on us, is there a website or something that people can go to just to sort of keep up with what you're doing at the library?
Yes.
What is
we
that?
have, it's forsythlibrary.org.
Okay.
And we do have our, we also have paper calendars you can pick up at any of our 10 library locations.
Okay.
And we post our programs to our social media, the Forsyth County Public Library Facebook page and Instagram.
Well, I think that's great. Thanks for all you're doing for the kids, especially. And I feel now I'm getting sentimental. I might have to come over there and read a book or do something. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, please come to the library and visit us.
I will. I'll come over there. We're going to wrap things up now, and I want to thank all the folks that helped make this possible. Of course, thank the good folks at Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Cable 2 for making this possible. Of course, T.J. James, Kevin Wren for working on the program, and Jeff Fabrizio for taking care of things, putting things all together. Ed McNeil, and our producer, and County Manager Dudley Watts for overseeing this project and the series called Forsyth County Connections. I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.